What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I'm here with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well.
And for you guys who have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, but we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, what you been playing?
Yeah, so, dabbling in a few things. I'm still playing everything we've mentioned in the past. Still doing Kena, or Kena, whatever, Bridge of Spirits, Kena. And I just kind of, as much as I like that game, it's one of those games where I'm like not dying to blast through it really quickly. It's a really nice, like, on a Sunday wind down. I like to jump in there with the music and the little creature, the rots. I think I really like it's just that atmosphere of the game is really simple, and I'm just like kind of slowly going through it. But I did, and of course still playing Far Cry 6, and I still like that game a lot. And I understand that it's like in a weird, people kind of saying it's Far Cry, which is what I wanted. So it's everything I praised about it last episode. I still feel it. I think it's really solid. The gunplay is really fun. I have a lot of fun doing this stuff. I do see the sort of sameness in the sense where it's like they'll introduce a character really quickly, you do a mission with them, and then in the next mission they either die, disappear, or betray you. And you can see that kind of stuff coming from like a mile away. Like the second you see, I'm not gonna spoil, but you save somebody, you can see he's giving the dirty eye to everyone in your crew, and then surprise, 2 missions later he betrays you and leads to people's deaths and things like that. So it's, and that's stuff I kind of get it. I think the core part of the story is really strong in most aspects. I feel like they're not giving us enough, and again, I'm not like near the end or anything, but they're not giving me a lot of the Giancarlo Esposito. You get his scenes every once in a while. There's a lot of poster boards, which I've seen that is a complaint some people have said, where when we see him, he's always, of course, top-notch villain. We've seen him as a villain in many different multimedias, but it's like you miss him when he's not there. It's almost a little too open, but it's still fun. It's pretty much scaling. It's the most fun I've had in a Far Cry since 3. And I really enjoyed Far Cry 5, but this one just feels a little bit more to that Far Cry overall feeling, like we mentioned before. Then the other few things I've been just quickly dabbling, I'll probably get through them real quickly. Of course, I went into Smash Brothers. I had to test out Sora, see how that whole was, and I discussed it last time. He's been released. I've been playing with him for a week. Super fun. A lot of love in that character they gave him. It makes sense that he's like the final character for Smash Ultimate. Just all that really was encapsulating, and it's weird. It's almost very awkward to play as him because you don't really think that would really work, but it's cool to see all the costumes in there, the music that's the songs that play, and his stage is really fun. So of course that was really fun, and yeah, what a nice send off for Ultimate. We'll see what happens with Smash in the next few years. Eventually they're gonna want to do another one, but I'm glad right now it is kind of done with the speculation, the rumors, that whole everything. Every time Sakurai tweeted a photo, it was people ripping the photo apart for shadows and all this extra stuff. But not to take away from it. Great game, I loved it, and of course now with Sora in it was really fun. So I've been playing a lot of that as well. A few other things I've been dabbling is just some other just like smaller details. Back 4 Blood came out in full release now. I remember playing it in the beta, the alpha, whatever it was I mentioned a while ago, and I still feel a lot of the same about the game. I've always enjoyed Left 4 Dead. I think it's fun with a lot of group of friends and kind of just blasting through it. Back 4 Blood has that as well. It's almost too linear and structured for that sort of random chaos, especially with the card system and how finicky some of the mechanics are for Back 4 Blood. It's still fun when you play with a group of friends. I played with my older brother and a few other people. And I think Orlando jumped in. And the basic is there. It's hard when you're not the one who controls stuff because people, I know you dabbled a little bit in it, people are scaring crows when you don't want that, and then you got a massive wave. So instead of exploring, taking my time to find the good loot, someone's going to open the door, the alarm goes off, and then you got guys spitting on you, the giant guy that comes. Later on, there's like the sirens. So it is fun, and it shows how good, because I see that the population's really there. A lot of people are playing this, and let me tell you, if this was not on Game Pass, I'd actually be worried for this game, because I feel like it would almost be dead on arrival. I know it's, I do know, I know it's on all the systems right now, all the crossplay and stuff, but I just know for a fact that Game Pass has it through the roof, because it is like up there, surpassing tons of these games, and it is fun. But I think about it where it's like, I'm glad I'm here supporting them, I'm playing them, you're getting my numbers in, and in another world, not even coming at them, I would not pay for this game regardless. I don't think, from what I've seen, the game isn't worth like a full-fledged title, and it's not that it's content-wise, it's that moment-to-moment gameplay gets stale. I guess not stale, but it gets super familiar very quickly, which you just kind of run and shoot, and you can kind of be doing tons of other things at the same time. I literally was watching an anime and playing this, and wasn't not missing a beat at all. But that's not to take away from the game. I think it is really fun with friends, of course. The mindless sort of kill all the zombies as you're running through these small objectives is really fun, and something we have not seen since Left 4 Dead, which has been really wild. And I'm glad, in a way, because now we have this new franchise that's not going to be corporate and tied down and lost in the ether. So that's been really exciting to do. A few other little things I've been touching. Mainly the last thing I've actually really been playing is the Demon Slayer game. I know it's got some long title. Demon Slayer, Hinakomi Chronicles, whatever it's called. It's the new Demon Slayer fighting game. I've been playing that actually for about a week and a half now, maybe 2 weeks. I think I got it just after our last episode. And I've had a lot of time. I'm a huge fan of the show, and that's kind of the only issue with this game is if you're not a huge fan of the show, I don't think there's much for you. There's like a main campaign, which this is made by CyberConnect too. So if anyone's ever played any of the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm games, it's that with Demon Slayer, which may sound weird at first, but it actually works really well. There's actually a lot of depth in the combat. There's a lot of parry systems, and it's fun. The roster's very tiny just because it is only going through Season 1 and the Mugen Train. So it is a very small cast. There's it does like something that if you've played a lot of the old Dragon Ball games, so there's like, oh, here's 4 versions of Goku. There's like 3 versions of Tanjiro, and it's with minor differences, and there's some fun costumes. But you can tell it is very much that first anime game when it's always happens, where it's just like the cast is small, they don't really know what to do with the campaign, which retells a lot of the main show, but in this weird part where they give you like these open city parts, but you can't really explore it. You're very linear, and you're just kind of walking down hallways. You collect a few things, and then like a random demon will show up, gurgle at you. You gotta fight him, and it kind of breaks it up, where you really just want to recreate the show and get those big battles out of the way. And that's what's also missing in Naruto, and that's the best way I can compare it to. Naruto, you had these fights with like all the tailed beast, and when Pain would go do his almighty push, you have like these big like epic designed boss battles. And this one, they're not there. Even later on, and I guess spoilers for Demon Slayer, when you're in the spider family, all that stuff is kind of just thrown at you so you can mash square and beat it, and then it's over. So the game needs a little polish, and I think with a few more updates the game will be nice. I know they're saying they're going to do some characters. Obviously I think the Demon Slayer game that comes after this will probably be really well, because you're including obviously more. This is one of those games that you need more characters and more content to do. It's just kind of very bare bones, like minimum. Like this is the minimum you could do to get a Demon Slayer game out right now and get well respected. So, but I'm having fun with that, trying to just finish it off just so I can get the last few characters I need. But yeah, that's all I've really been dabbling in. Very few other things that I don't have too many opinions on yet. I have them installed, and I haven't really just gotten to the point where I can even have much to say about them besides what they look like. But that's all I've been up to on my end. What have you been playing?
Yeah, so I guess I'll pick up with one of the ones that you were talking about towards the end. I've also dabbled with Back 4 Blood, as you mentioned. I don't have a ton of thoughts about it. I used to play a lot of Left 4 Dead back in the day, had a lot of love for that, and so the kind of takeaway I had for it is it's kind of Left 4 Dead, both in a good way and a bad way. Like, I think it absolutely catches the spirit there. So, like, for friends who, like, were in a group together and played Left 4 Dead all the time and have been kind of hankering for that replacement game, this is perfect. You can be able to play it on your modern consoles and go right back into it and snap back into it. And I think a lot of the clutching techniques and stuff like that worked in the old one will work in this one. And so it's good in that regard. But at the same time, I think in many ways they settled on a formula and they've kind of locked in on that. And they didn't really try to stray from that too far. So if you were going to it looking for any kind of novelty or something new to try to refresh it, really, it didn't really give that for me. That was the one thing I was kind of going, is like, how have they switched things up or spiced it up to maybe appeal to some modern sensibility, some quality of life improvements, or take advantage of this new hardware. I don't feel like they fully went for that quite yet. Again, it runs pretty well. It looks pretty good. Gunplay felt fine. Enemy diversity, no major issues with it. I liked the map design. It was well designed. But at the same time, it's Left 4 Dead for the most part, as far as I'm concerned. So again, for the good and for the bad, it's Left 4 Dead, and so I enjoyed it. But again, in 2021, am I going to sit there and grind this out like what I did by my friends in high school? Unlikely, but it was nice to be able to play 30-40 minutes and just kind of get my fix there. So also from there, quick one, I started House of Ashes yesterday. For you guys who don't know, that is the third volume in the Dark Picture anthology series. It started with Man of Medan, you got Little Hope, and then this one is House of Ashes. I'm very, very early in it, and I usually play with someone, so we're not very far in it. So I don't have too much to report yet. I don't think that would be necessarily fair to the game, because again, it's very narrative heavy. It's not really a gameplay oriented game, so the story is everything, and I'm not very far in it. All I can say is that tone wise, it is very different than the first two. Obviously, with the setting of it playing in modern day Iraq, or the Assyrian society back in the day, or the Akkadian, sorry. It takes place doubling back and forth between the old Akkadian civilization over like 2000 BC and then modern day Iraq in 2003, kind of during the Iraq surge during the war. So it has a more militaristic, maybe ever so slightly dude bro more feel to it. In comparison to the previous one, which obviously Little Hope had that kind of like occultic Salem mass type of foresty vibe, and then the first one had that kind of like time loop World War II ship thingy. So each one takes a very different approach, and then obviously these are all kind of offspring of Until Dawn, which was that kind of cheesy slasher winter flick. So they all have their own different vibe and kind of subgenre of horror, and so they're doing a different approach here. So I appreciate it from that regard. But I would say it hasn't fully hooked me quite yet, but again, very early. I'll have more to say about it by the next show, because I'm sure I will have finished it by then. It only takes, a couple sittings at most to finish. Also beat Far Cry yesterday, all the way through. Yeah. So I to be honest with you, the first maybe hour or two, I actually wasn't super sold on it. I was kind of like, okay, it's good, but it's not really doing it for me. I would say maybe around like 4 to 5 hours in, it really clicked for me, and I really, really started loving it. What some people would call repetition, I would say it's just kind of a loop that they settle on. It's like kind of like if it ain't broke kind of situation. So it's the same formula as the previous ones, but I think this one has the strongest story. I'm not going to say anything too crazy, because again, I beat the game, but I haven't lived with it for too long. I would say it's the best story easily since 3. It's my favorite since 3 as well. I would say a lot of the concerns you have, especially from like Giancarlo Espinosa's inclusion, I think are rectified on the later half of the game. I think you get a lot more of that on the latter half of the game. Because I felt this exact same way as you, which is basically like, I mean, his acting is just so good, and Castillo is just such a compelling character. And I had some concerns about it early on that I feel like by the end, where a lot of them were rectified. And just, I think for anybody who is like, I love the idea of being a guerrilla going against a totalitarian regime, but it doesn't feel like I really got the chance to go full guerrilla mode. I would say that's also super fixed on the latter half, where there, and not to get into super spoiler territory, but there's an entire section of the map that I feel like finally clicks it into play, and a non-spoiler part of it that I guess I can say is that it's very rainforesty. So I feel like that naturally fits a lot more into a lot of the themes they're playing, and the missions sync up with that accordingly. So yeah, I would say the latter half of the game is much stronger than the first half of the game, and also there's an interesting post game that they do. I can't get into what that is, but there is an interesting post game that they launch the moment you beat the game. That's the interesting thing about Far Cry in the past, and I need to tread very carefully here, but in Far Cry, they have this idea that you go into this region, there's this person that controls it, you beat them, and all is well. But there are political implications to the Far Cry 6 that don't make it as clean as the previous one. And so my main thing was, how are they going to tackle that? Because you have a country here. It's not a small region of Montana. It's not like a little mountain range like in Far Cry 4. This is a country that you're destabilizing here. How are they going to handle that? And I can't answer that 100% quite yet, because I still have a little bit more to do since there is a post game. But I think that they did take that into effect this time, and there is a lot more nuance in this game that I really, really appreciated as a long-term Far Cry fan, and as someone who is who loves political history myself. I love reading about that. I think they also take that into effect too. So I think there is a almost kind of a sobering realness to it that I really, really appreciate. So yeah, Far Cry 6 went from like I really enjoy it, it's really, really fun, to easily in my top 5 games of the year for sure. That's going to 100% be in there. That locked its way in there. So yeah, double thumbs up for me on Far Cry. Metroid Dread, I'm on, I think, either the last or second to last boss battle right now. And it is just a mofo right now. It's whooping me. So it's kind of just like for anybody who played Metroid or Castlevania, y'all know how this is. Sometimes you just gotta sit there and grind it out. Like I just need a little bit more time to build my muscle memory and kind of build my reaction speeds, especially with the parry system that this one has. It asks a lot of you on the latter half of the game, and I think it really takes advantage of. And Metroid's always been very strong at doing that, basically giving you all these abilities, but then also putting you in great positions to really utilize them. Like there's no system that I think they introduced that you just kind of use once and then that's done. Like they really make you use all these systems. So it's one of those things that I'm just trying to figure it out right now, because I make, you know how like there's like multi-stage approaches to a lot of these bosses. Well, like I get through the first stage, but the second one is just like, it's killing me. It fatigues me, and I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Like I can't kill this guy. So I'm working on it. I'm sure by next week I will have figured it out. I've figured the rest out. There's some challenging bosses on there, but genuinely I would say that this is one of the best crafted Metroid games I've played pretty much ever. I wouldn't say it's the best, like I'm not going to go crazy, but I would say it's an incredibly strong entry, and it's kind of like the best of many worlds. I feel like it has a lot of the awesome traversal and map mechanics of Fusion, but it has a lot of the really smooth gameplay of Samus Returns. So Dread is just phenomenal, easily again in my top 5 games of the year. Well, we'll get there when we hit like November, December, but yeah, it's a damn near a perfect game as far as for what I'm looking for kind of like that Metroidvania experience. For somebody else who doesn't really love those type of games, I could see them like really not like it, but if you like Castlevania, if you like Metroid, there's nothing to dislike here. The boss battles are challenging but not unreasonable, and that's the one thing why like I can get frustrated by some bosses in some games, but then in Metroid I never get mad in Metroid. I kind of just laugh it off and like, dang man, this is tough, because it's fair. It's just you just need to get good, basically. And then lastly, I would say I'm doing a playthrough of Kingdom Hearts right now. So with Sora coming to Smash, everybody has their own reaction. I'm not much of a Smash guy, so thus it was time to finish that Kingdom Hearts playthrough. I'm playing with somebody, so I let her take control of all the parts that I hate, which is a majority of Chain of Memories, I won't lie, in the latter half of Kingdom Hearts 1. But the rest of it, I'm right in there, and so we beat Kingdom Hearts 1, we beat Chain of Memories, we watched 358, and now we're in Kingdom Hearts 2. Yes, before anybody has a heart attack, yes, we watched 358 before 2. I know that's heresy, and I know it's not release order. We're both familiar with the source material quite well, so it's not spoiler territory for us. And if you have played 2, 358 makes a decent amount of sense if you play it beforehand. It can go either way, personally, in my opinion. I know other people will have disagreements about that. The only thing that is possibly a little bit out of place is, yes, Ventus makes a brief appearance, but I'm not going to get into my Kingdom Hearts lore right now. Yeah, no, we're having a great time with that. I'm just glad to be into 2 finally, because I like Kingdom Hearts 1 a lot, but there are some quality of life things that are not present in that one. And then Chain of Memories, from a lore perspective, is excellent, but the gameplay, I hate the card mechanics so much. Like, I hate it. And so I'm just glad to be past that one. So now that we're in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I guess it's not really spoiler territory because it came out in 2005. So yeah. Right now I'm in Mulan. Just started Mulan. We unlocked Hollow Bastion. Oh no, yeah, we went through Hollow Bastion. We have Beast Castle and Mulan, and we chose Mulan first because the level is more in sync with where we're at, strength-wise with Sora. So we finished the Roxas component. There's something about it when you watch 358 first, and then you play the intro to Kingdom Hearts 2. Boy, is that a sad intro. It's brutal. Yeah. It was sad to begin with, but when you really understand Roxas's quest line, what led him to that point, I mean, to basically have your existence hinging, and basically them telling you somebody else's life matters more than you, so you need to go, is it's just brutal to watch in real time. Poor Jesse McCartney, but but yeah, no, excellent series for anybody. Now I'm not going to get too much deeper in there because I wouldn't offer any more thoughts to a game that's well over 10 years old at this point. But yeah, I just love that series, and so I'm enjoying Sora in my own way. But yeah, I'm having a good time with it.
No, that's great to hear, because I've been wanting to do that as well, because I haven't played through them all in a while. I played through some of the major ones before the release of 3, but 3 left such not a bad taste in my mouth, but I guess more of a disappointing taste in my mouth that I kind of want to go back and at least hit the major ones and then maybe experience 3 again without the hype, without the years and years of hype, and maybe I'll be a little bit more accepting of it. But that's awesome to hear. Yeah,
I'm just really excited personally, because there's always a debate, what's your favorite Kingdom Hearts game? Mine has always been Birth by Sleep, so that's the one that I'm fiending to get back to, because I love that game so much, and I love all the characters that come out of that game. But obviously there's quite a trajectory before you get to that point. There's quite a few games to play before that, so we'll get there. But yeah, I'm very, very positive about it this time, and there are certainly some things regarding the late game difficulty that I completely forgot about. I forgot the ending of 1 is so brutal, but thankfully the person I'm playing with, Alyssa, she was a trooper, and she banged through all of it and went through she had to collect the Dalmatians, so she was able to get Araga or whatever to be able to fight him. So she did all that, because I was ain't no way in hell I'm going back and doing all that. There's no way. I'm not grinding Kingdom Hearts while I'm sitting there on the verge of tears from dread. I'll worry about that. You do all the grinding. So yeah, we're making it work.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep hearing those updates from you.
No doubt.
All right, so let's get into some of these big news stuff that I actually been wanting to talk to you about. We spoke lightly, yeah, cam, I guess, as this stuff happened, but as usually we hold it. So some big Switch news. We had the Switch expansion pack and an Animal Crossing update, all kind of mixing together around the same time. So the recap comes from Adam Bankhurst from IGN. Nintendo has confirmed that the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack will officially launch on October 25th, 2021. Additionally, the new Switch versions of the Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis controllers are available for pre-order for those who have a Nintendo Switch Online membership and you have that weird sync up that you can do to actually get access to that. Nintendo has announced that Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack membership will give Switch owners access to N64 and Sega games, alongside, for this year, Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise DLC. And the expansion itself will cost $49.99 a year, which is a $30 increase from the standard $20 membership. If you have any other Switch owners in your family, a family membership which can support up to 8 Nintendo accounts will cost $80 for 12 months. No release date has been given besides late October. Then really quickly, this news was announced on the same day as the latest Animal Crossing Direct that revealed Animal Crossing New Horizons version 2.0 update. That brings with it Brewster and his coffee shop, The Roast, which will be joining the museum. Other fan favorite villagers, island ordinances, gyroids are finally making a comeback, and more. Also alongside with the ability to have the Happy Home Paradise DLC, which was the DS spin-off game, basically, is now going to be added on, which you can buy separate, or you can get it through the Nintendo Switch expansion pack, which lets you design villagers' dream homes on a new island. So a lot of the stuff to unpack, really. I know most of the stuff we discussed already. We discussed everything on how we felt with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, but we didn't get a price. And I was worried. I was very curious why we didn't get a price, and now it's because they were hiding, and I guess trying to bribe people with the Animal Crossing New Horizons, the Happy Home Paradise DLC in there to really soften the blow, because don't get me wrong, we're excited to play N64 games. A lot of these Sega games are available on Switch in multiple collections, or if not by themselves. So $30 for a very handful of N64 games that are going to get trickled out. And when we say trickle, we mean one title here, a re-release of a title with some bonus features. $30 is pretty rough, especially when you compare that to that's coming into the territory with PS Plus. That's coming into the territory with Xbox, the Xbox Gold memberships, or even on Game Pass now. The fact that it's entering that territory and they think this justifies it, when people really didn't like. My thing is, for the $20 we were paying, it was fine. We didn't really like the games they were giving us, and the more of the rate they were giving us. So the fact that they're gutsy enough to be like, well, it's $59.99. I think they understood some of the blowback, which is why they're trying to really soften the blow with the Home Paradise DLC, because I think that DLC itself is $25. So if you're gonna just buy that, it almost makes more sense to get into the expansion pack. And I'm hoping, and that's all gimmick, because then they want you to forget and always pay the subscription. So it's pretty interesting. What did you think of that increase?
Yeah, I kind of have like two approaches to it. There's the one question, which is that entire package altogether worth the $50 a year? And is what the kind of like change in the expansion pack worth a $30 increase? And those are kind of like two separate questions. Mm-hmm. The whole package altogether for $50, like, I can get dozens of hours of playtime out of those N64 and Genesis games. I know that to be true. So I could personally probably justify the $50 a year. However, a $30 increase is ridiculous. Like, I would have never guessed in a million years it would increase that much. Just because, again, like, you take the NES and the SNES catalog, and that's $20. And you get all that for $20. And I wasn't mad at that. I love NES games. I love Super Nintendo games. I know you do too. And then adding N64 and Sega to it. So to me, Sega, I love the Genesis. Personally, that's my favorite of that generation. I have a lot of the games they're offering on cart, actually. So to that extent, I would put it at least on par with the Super Nintendo. And then the N64, because it's 3D, and then a $30 increase. It's just a tough proposition for me. Another thing is that, yeah, they have that kind of drip-feed approach to adding new games. We know Majora's is coming at some point in the future. But the thing is, with the difference between the N64 and the generations before and after it is that it's much smaller than a lot of those generations in terms of the amount of games available. And of those worth playing, a vast majority of them are first-party Nintendo games. So this whole, like, we're going to drop 3 games in a month or every month and a half, and they're like 3 nothing games, like some random, Konami game from '85. Like, and again, I love those games, but at the same time, it's like the N64 can't do that. Like, there's not that many to choose from. So unless you're gonna pull from some random crappy sports game or some mud racing game, a lot of the games worth playing on N64 are first party games. So they're gonna have to come with the heat, and they don't really have a choice but releasing all the greatest hits of N64 because that's all they really have to pull from, to be honest with you. And that's from somebody. I like the N64, but like keeping it honest, like take away Nintendo first party, what's left? Like GoldenEye, like Wave Race. There's not that much there, and so that drip feed approach thing is not gonna work for me. So I don't know what they're gonna do here. Unless they're going to be overly reliant on Sega. There's interesting rumors regarding this too. I'm not sure if you heard this, but apparently the rumor goes that to get those Sega games available on this Nintendo Switch Online, they had to pay them a hefty sum. And so that's what the increased price is kind of counteracting, is the mass amount of money they had to pay Sega. Now, the follow-up question a lot of people would have is, why would Sega charge so much for the Genesis game library? The answer for that rumor is that when they participated in the virtual console, apparently the returns were not good at all, and the sales were not good on the Sega Genesis side. So they were apprehensive to even work on this again. So Nintendo really had to pay them out to include them in this service. That is the rumor right now. I think it's worth bringing up. There's no confirm nor deny. It could be BS. We don't know. But I also think that's interesting that some people are saying that it's possible that Sega is the reason why this is so expensive.
It's going off if that were true, well, then why bother?
Yeah,
you guys have GameCube games that
I agree.
We would die. You cannot play Luigi's Mansion 1. Well, besides, I know they remade it on DS, but you can't play that at home unless you hook up your GameCube, or you're playing obviously backwards compatible on your. So if Sega's like, nah, we want to bump it up, be like, all right, never mind, and break out your GameCube catalog, guys.
That rumor tells me, if that rumor is true, that tells me Nintendo doesn't have much faith in the N64, which I just don't.
No.
I cannot believe that. That's not true. There's no way. Not with Smash Bros. Not with Mario Kart starting on that console. Not with two of the best Zelda games to ever come out. There's just no way that they don't have faith enough in N64 to, one thing, stand on its own, but if anything, to tap other Nintendo properties before they go there. They could easily go to Game Boy if they really needed to fluff things out. They could pull in Game Boy. They could pull in Game Boy Advance. There's so much before they even touch GameCube, and it's an easy conversion because, again, these games are no more demanding than the NES or the Super Nintendo, respectively.
Absolutely.
So it would fit in line perfectly. So yeah, I agree with you as well. I think it's possible that Sega was handsomely paid to be included in this service. I agree with that. I'm sure that's the case. But including them as a way to supplement it, no, I don't think. I think they want to make their service as robust as possible, and they felt that roping in Sega could be very advantageous for them. But I don't think it's because out of like lack of faith in N64 and they had nothing else to pull for. If anybody has first party things to pull from, it's Nintendo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they have an insane heritage over multiple consoles that already have some degree of presence on the console. Like, if you go to the Castlevania collection, there are Game Boy games there. Like, there's old Castlevania games from Game Boy there. So and not that was a debate, but yeah, there are Game Boy games available on Switch already. And same thing with Shantae.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it has more to do with just, making it a more robust service. I think a $30 increase is a really, really tough sell. Obviously, it's easier if you're an Animal Crossing player. That Happy Home Paradise DLC is going to be very robust. So you're definitely getting your money's worth on that side of it. But again, this is a yearly thing, so like you're going to get this DLC for 2021, and that's great, but what about 2022? We'll see. Yeah, it's just $30 is rough for me. When you look at the whole package, it's $50. Like, can I afford $50 a year? I can, and I probably will get it. It comes out tomorrow. I would like to play Zelda on my OLED. That'd be great, but I don't know, man. It's a tough sell.
No, it is, and again, when looking at it by itself, it's like, I could justify it, but then you gotta factor in that, especially us, we're both, have all the consoles. That's another membership on top of PlayStation Plus. My PlayStation Plus just renewed without me noticing. I didn't notice until I looked at the bank, and then on top of that, I have my membership for Game Pass, and it's
exactly.
like it's not that they went $30. It's like compared to what else I can do for almost the same price on Xbox, and I know different beasts, but on an Xbox, day one I'll be able to play Halo, the new Forza, Back 4 Blood, all these new games. Where if I look at that N64 catalog, it's like, yeah, I want to play Ocarina, and that's kind of it.
Where's the Crystal Shards love?
On that, on that first patch, and some of these games, I will dabble in. I do see myself eventually getting it. I casually still play Animal Crossing, so maybe that Happy Home. Would like to get back into Animal Crossing a little bit more. It's just so time consuming, but maybe having that all will help it. But my big thing is, what about next year when people already have this DLC? What are you going to offer now for that same increased price? Because if I can justify it this year because I'm getting that DLC, that's fine. But next year, why am I going to pay $50 when you don't have anything else to incorporate? And I assume they will, and I'm assuming that the Happy Home Paradise will maybe be swapped at some point or switch with something. But it's just a tough sell, and it's just that my thing is, if we had a better experience already for the last 2 years with Nintendo Switch Online, I'd be feeling better. If we were getting solid games every bi-monthly or week, whatever it would be, I'd be way more down, because I'd be like, oh, now we can get whatever the F-Zero game was on N64 and all these other missing ones. But the N64 era, same with the PlayStation 1 era, the licensing issue is a huge deal, which is why some of these games go missing. Nobody even knows who's even holding the title anymore. So that's why I worry about it. But I don't know. I see both sides. I do see people who will be like, it's fine, it is what it is. But I also see why people are so concerned, because it is sort of such a drastic increase.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder at this point, with it expanding with N64 and Sega and that costing $30 a year, what happens going forward when GameCube is ready and Game Boy Advance is ready? Like, is this expansion pack gonna be like Volume 2 and include multiple consoles with this one too? And then what is there going to be a Volume 3 at some point? So you pay an extra $20-$30 on top of that. So is it going to jump up? Like, and not to get ahead of myself, but this is something I think really worth consideration. Just to kind of justify paying this price, I went back into Animal Crossing heavy, picked all my weeds, cleaned up my house, did my whole thing, got my hair done. Because I was like, listen, if I'm going to be paying $50 a year for this, I'm going to take advantage of as much as possible. So I was like, I want to play that DLC, so I want to get my town together just to kind of justify it. So it's like, it went from $20 a year was like something I didn't really have to think about too much. You do it once and then I kind of move on with my life. Where at this point, now it's in PlayStation Plus territory. So it's something where I gotta be mindful of what, not that it's going to like bankrupt me, but you got to be mindful of when these things are going to hit the bank account now. So like when it renews, it went from like something I'd never thought about, that I never even considered about whether or not I'm going to be subscribed to Nintendo Switch going forward. It was just kind of something that was going to auto renew, and I'm not going to even think about it because it's $20 a year. Where now this is definitely not the case. That next year, if the game selection is not up to par, I've exhausted all my entertainment with all the N64 and Genesis games that they had on there, and there's nothing major being added to it, I'm dropping it, no doubt about that, and I'm going back down to the 20 per year for sure. So that's kind of my approach for it.
Yeah, it is, and and they kept, I hate it because they kept burying the info. Happy Home. Some people almost, and I was one of them, that when I saw all the info, I thought that the Animal Crossing update with like Brewster and the gyroids and all this other stuff, I thought that was all hooked in with the Happy Home Paradise, and it's like, no, it's two separate things.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I'd be more willing to pay for the actual free update than I am the Happy Home design. I played that DS game once or twice, and it's fine. I was not a big fan of it. Again, it being incorporated into the main game would help, but it's like, I'm actually more excited for the free stuff you're giving me in Animal Crossing than I am that 25. I'm looking at that whatever it's called, the paid DLC.
Yeah.
to justify myself getting the expansion pack as well. Where really, if it was the other way around, I'd be almost more excited. But it's all weird marketing, and unfortunately, it is Nintendo being Nintendo. They've always struggled with the right pathway of DLCs, expansions, and memberships.
Yeah, it's tricky, man. They spent all this time again making the perfect virtual storefront, which was Virtual Console. It was amazing. But yeah, you had to buy these games piecemeal. But personally, I'd rather fork out a couple bucks for the games that I care about and just forego. I don't need to play every single NES game that you I played a lot of the NES games that I have that I want to play at this point. So I'd rather buy them piecemeal personally. But I respect the subscription model, but their approach to it has just been kind of terrible, to be honest. But,
absolutely.
Hopefully, again, because of the scarcity of the N64's library, that kind of forces them to really step it up and come. They can't afford to not release every main, first party release on N64. They can't. Like, they have to. Because there's just not that much. They're gonna have 3 months worth of material, and then they'll have nothing. So they'll have to figure out something. But hey, keep working with Sega and get Dreamcast on there, and then you got me.
Then you're speaking my language.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so I guess we can move on to the second story, and it's a quick update originally, but then I kind of laid out all the stuff that we have to go over, and it's actually a little bit more robust. But So, yeah, we got a look at basically more from the GTA Trilogy that we confirmed with the last episode. We finally got a look at what they're going to look like. So, Rockstar has announced that the Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, will be released. What is that title? Will be released digitally on November 11th, so right around the corner, with physical releases to follow on December 7th. The news comes alongside a first look at the updated versions of the 3 classic games. The Trilogy will cost $60 US. So the 3 masters include GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and San Andreas, and they have been created for modern platforms in the Unreal Engine by Grove Street Games, which has previously worked on the mobile ports for GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, which I've played those before, and they actually play pretty well.
Same here.
As well as the PS3 and 360 versions of the latter. The Trilogy is initially coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC via the Rockstar Games launcher. Rockstar says that the games come with a completely rebuilt lighting system, improved shadows, weather, reflections, upgraded character and vehicle models alongside a new higher resolution textures across buildings, weapons, roads, interiors, and more. Draw distances have been improved, which was a major issue, especially with San Andreas. I remember that, where you can see 100 feet in one direction and then it's just a fog. So I'm glad they're fixing that. New foliage has been added and surfaces have been smooth. Rockstar has explained that all 3 games will feature quality of life improvements such as updated controls inspired by GTA 5, which is a godsend. I'm so happy about that. Improvements to targeting and lockdown aiming, updated weapon and radio station wheels, which the wheels is good, but I get concerned about the licensing fees with the songs, especially for Vice City. That's super important, so we'll see if that is able to be taken care of. Updated mini-maps with enhanced navigation, allowing players to set waypoints to destinations. Updated achievements, trophies, and more. So obviously they're putting an enormous amount of work into these. You'll also be able to immediately restart a failed mission, cutting out major points of frustration across the originals. And the Switch version of the game will include gyro aiming as well as touchscreen support. The PC version will also support NVIDIA DLSS. PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the games will display at 4K with up to 60 frames per second performance. So obviously we don't normally have dedicated stories to a single game or collection, but GTA is a little different. These are this is the major thing going on in the game industry right now. And the main question was, how robust are these remakes or re-releases or remasters going to be? What are these going to look like? And it looks like they're actually putting a great amount of work into it. They have a newer art style. However, I disagree with some people that are acting like they made some insane cartoony jump. To be honest, if you play the San Andreas, Vice City, and GTA 3 on PS4, those ports, so you get the original models ran in 1080p, you can see how cartoony they are already. If anything, they just kind of smooth the edges. So I don't think the art style is a massive departure like some people, but I do think obviously they made an art direction choice there that I think fits the games decently, especially, again, Vice City. I think it fits that aesthetic very well. and that kind of Florida in the 80s look to it, that Miami look. But yeah, I'm really happy with what they've shown so far. The improved gameplay and the fact that it's going to feel like GTA 5 is amazing. I think that's going to make things a lot more manageable in some of those missions, especially like I think of the one where I think it's like San Andreas and you're like on an ATV or something like that chasing a train and you have to shoot people. It's so annoying. So moments like that I think are going to be a lot more manageable, and I like what they're doing so far. Obviously the remake the fact that it's going to be, again, 4K 60 is a lot more robust than I think a lot of people were expecting. So that means that like I wanted to get it on my Switch, but to be honest, I would love to play this in 60 frames. So I'm skewing more towards Xbox now. But what were your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, it was interesting once I saw the official trailer, and I was super mixed about it because I wanted them. They took down the classic ones off the marketplace very quickly. So
it's gone already.
They were gone.
Oh man!
Immediately, yeah.
They should sync that up. That's so annoying.
You think you would have? Which is why I was a little upset. Like, you guys should have gave a little bit more warning. Yeah. But like the PS2 classics on PS4, those are pulled down. It's off the Steam.
Wow, okay.
They're off the Steam page. They pulled them down, I want to say, almost a week after the announcement, like the official announcement they did. It was like a week. So
that's annoying.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying that they did it that way. So it's like, well, these whatever they are doing, it's gotta be hefty. And at first I was laughing. I was taken back by the art style. It hits you like a train, because I was like, I've seen some recreations before, and I've seen other mods and stuff that work pretty well. This is obviously a little bit more, and it's almost like overwhelming. Like, whoa. I got a little used to it, I saw breakdowns, and it's like, man, it's more faithful. It's like, if you look at the original artworks to these GTA games, they are very cartoony.
Yeah, they look like that.
People
don't like remember them looking like that, but they really do.
So people are like, oh, they just like leaned heavily into that art style of the cover art, and also made it more unit, because the three games came out very close to each other, but there was like weird awkwardness, very blocky heads and stuff, and that's the stuff that they worked on. So to have like one fresh coat over all three games makes sense. Again, it was just taken. It took a little weird to get used to. I think once you're playing, that's more always been what I've been wanting, is what does it feel like, because those games play very old school. So when they're saying, oh, we updated the controls and hopefully they remapped a few things and the lock-on aiming, which will hopefully just all work better. That's what I've been always really wondering. When they talked about that, I also was wondering about the licensed music, also because of Vice City, because I feel like that era, that lore of the town all really work together. Where in San Andreas, if they replace one rap song with a different rap song, I may not notice so abruptly. When Vice City, just because of the time it takes place, feels like it needs it. So I'm interested to see how that works. I also am sort of torn on. I'm a little torn on because they're only selling it as a trilogy per right now. I'm also torn on where to get it, because I would like these games on Switch, but they did come up with the whole 60 frames 4K. The 4K I'm not wild about, but the 60 frames would be really nice. The fact that the games can be separated, though, because I don't think you have it here, but if I'm not wrong, GTA 3 remaster or one of the GTA, just one of these remastered is going to be on Game Pass.
Yeah,
one of them
San Andreas is Game Pass,
and then one of them is going to be on PS Now.
Yep.
So the games will be able to be split, but they have not mentioned that it would be able to be purchased that way. Again, $60 for these three games makes a lot of sense. But so it is very weird. As I guess the only reason I would like that is because I'd like to see how it truly runs on Switch. I'd rather spend $20 on one of these. If it's all really good, then get it multiple places, especially certain of my favorites. I'd like to have Vice City everywhere. So it is just like weird. It is like weird Rockstar movements that is a little confusing. But all in all, when I look at this and I look at the news, as long as the controls are as not fixed, but worked on as they say, I'm all for this game. This remaster again. It is a little weird. I think it's also more indicative also of the future that you got to assume there's going to be a GTA 4 Definitive Edition coming.
Oh, no doubt,
which is something I would really like to see because I've not played GTA 4. I own it on PS3, so I can't play it unless I'm having my PS3 hooked up. Yeah. So it is interesting. Also, I wonder what went wrong with this or what it was, because this has been leaking for almost as long as we've been doing this show. This has been
GTA
leaking.
Collection?
Yeah,
for sure.
This has been leaking and rumored and ratings for a long time, and now we see why it wasn't just a quick port. But I'm all in all, I'm really excited for this to get back into this trilogy. I showed my friend the trailer, though he hated the art style. He's like, oh, for sure I'm gonna buy it though. He goes, I can't wait to go back to San Andreas. So it's gonna be an exciting time to see these games live again, and just see how they're received in this day and age.
Yeah, I just need that gameplay, man. I just want to see. And there's this video going around on YouTube right now. It's hilarious. It posted maybe a week before the trailer came out, and everybody was like losing their mind over it because it was a video of Vice City running, and it looks like the collection, but I don't think it's legit. But that made me so excited. I'm like, I need to see how this thing is run, because like I want to see that gameplay loop, because one of the ones I'm the most excited about jumping into is obviously GTA 3, because it's just like prohibitively old. Like it's just so this is kind of like my Mafia moment, like when they remade Mafia, and it's like, oh my god, finally I can like jump back in, because like and it's obviously you and I, we play a lot of old games. However, there is a certain time period of old game that are really tough to play now. And it's that kind of like PS1, early PS2 games where they run really, really rough. And so it almost makes the difficulty higher, because especially as more time passes, you become less and used to that kind of like stiff shooting kind of style, where like Saints Row 1 can be like that as well. So that's what I'm most excited about too, is to finally be able to re-experience that story, because I haven't played it since I was like, it was back when it was a semi-new game, was the last time I played it, and I didn't even have it. I played it at my cousin's house because I couldn't have it. There's no way.
Same.
So I would like play it in chunks. So I'm super excited to go back into 3 and be able to play it kind of like with my adult eyes and enjoy that story, because the only ones I really got to experience, I think, in real time was San Andreas 4 and 5. Vice City I played on my PSP through Vice City Stories, so that's not even the same game really. And then I went back and played Vice City on my Xbox once upon a time. So this is finally a clean way to just play all 3 games back to back, fresh adult eyes on good hardware, that I think is going to be great. And I'm glad that it's so soon. So it's going to be mid-November. As of right now, for me, it's just going to be GTA and Pokemon pretty much holding down November. So that works out great for me.
Yeah, pretty much same here. Pretty much is what we're holding out for. All right, into another story of another update, and just because it's in the flesh, it exists. The Uncharted movie. So Tom Holland will star in the long-awaited Uncharted movie from Zombieland director Ruben Fletcher, and now the first trailer has arrived following a leak of some things, and Tom Holland can't get away from leaks. In discussions with the film's director, Ruben Fletcher, he shared that he made the movie for both hardcore fans of the game and those who are not yet familiar with the franchise, and believe that both will be equally entertained by this incredibly fun and action-packed film. Naughty Dog said in a blog post, like the games, the Uncharted movie seems to be packed with action and one-liners. The Uncharted movie, which also stars Antonio Banderas and Mark Wahlberg, releases in theaters February 2022. So I've been saying this for a while, that this trailer needed her to get off the pot. It was some weird nonsense. You gotta remember, this movie finished filming before he went to do Spider-Man, and we got a Spider-Man trailer before we got an Uncharted trailer. A lot of weird stuff is going on. My quick take of it: it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. It does not look like Uncharted. It doesn't feel like Uncharted. I don't buy Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. I don't buy Mark Wahlberg as Sully. I actually believe, and I think I'm on a big train here. Everyone kind of assumes, and not assumes this, but feels the same way. Mark Wahlberg looks a lot more like Nathan Drake in this aesthetic than Tom Holland does, which is really weird. And I thought it was just me, but I saw it kind of circulating in the comments, and a few other people have also mentioned it. And at one point, Mark Wahlberg was in consideration for Nathan Drake, so it's kind of weird. Besides that, I don't like the super rewrite of it. There's scenes from all 4 Uncharted games in this. Which again, I'm not like a big it's got to be completely accurate. You got mentions of Sam, his brother, in here, which that doesn't happen until way later. Obviously, the big plane crate scene, which is kind of not a spoiler, but that's a big pinnacle moment in the 3rd Uncharted game, is happening here. It looks like they're picking and choosing, which is weird for me because they obviously want this to be a franchise, which is why they went with Tom Holland so young. But if you're already checking those boxes off from future games and future timeline story-wise, what's going to be left when you start doing sequels? Because that scares me, because that's when the original ideas start coming in and they usually mess with it. But that's all I got to say. It's not the worst thing. It's also not the best thing, in my opinion. How did you feel about this?
Yeah, I actually saw the trailer in the leaked version before I saw the actual legit one. And then I was like, you know what, let me try to keep an open mind, keep my mouth shut. I know I hate the live action thing, so I already know I'm coming in kind of with like a negative bias, so I was like, you know what, let me just try to be as open-minded as possible. I see the legit one. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like anything about it, really. It looks bad to me. Not bad in the new Resident Evil way, because that looks a kind of a unique style of bad, but I can't do it. I can't do these type of movies. But and thank good. Listen, I don't like the live action thing, but thank goodness for the Last of Us live action showing us so far that this is what happens when you really, really care and do things correctly. And I feel like there's like off-putting things about Last of Us as well, where it's like, I don't know if they look the most of, like, that's fine. This Uncharted thing, this movie's been in incubation for like well over 10 years at this point.
Yep.
I think it started in like 2008 or something like that with like pre-production. And this is what they have to show for it. Like, I don't know. It just is not doing it. I like Tom Holland a lot. Like, don't get it twisted. I love Tom Holland. I've watched multiple of his movies outside of even Spider-Man, and I think he's a great actor. Obviously, he's a very like acrobatic type guy, so I think he's physically good for the role in terms of doing like an action role, but he does not look like Nathan Drake at all. And obviously, if this was like a young Nathan Drake, then yeah, as you brought it up, perfect sense. It doesn't make sense why all these events from much later in the series happens. Mm-hmm. And before I saw the trailer, and I heard the leak was out, and I was seeing screenshots, I was like, you know what? Maybe they can pull off like a Tomb Raider, and not the old Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider. I'm talking about the newer one, where it came out, but it was so inoffensive that like no one really cared. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't so bad that like people were outraged. It wasn't Ghost in the Shell, but at the same time, it wasn't good enough that anybody cared, because again, at the end of the day, all of these really are video game versions of Indiana Jones. And so if you and again, that can be super offensive to people, but like, let's keep it honest. What makes it different is the fact that, again, Indiana Jones was cinema and this is interactive. This is video games. And so these video games allowed us to basically play as Indiana Jones, and they made their own new characters with their own families and their own adventures, and it was really fun. It was really nice, and we loved it. But going back into cinema puts them in a situation where they're not doing anything new, because we've seen cinema do this. And so I couldn't see a situation where Uncharted plays out well at all. And now watching this trailer, I'm like, there's no way. And yeah, you bring up a great point. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake, what Big Boy says. And to be honest, watching this, I was like, you couldn't have thrown Nathan Fillion a bone and stuff like this, because I feel like, I mean, he's pretty acrobatic for like a 50-year-old. Like, yeah. I don't get it. Again, other than, they chose Tom Holland because he's a draw right now and he's young and he'll be able to do it for a while. But to be honest with you, we all know this film is probably going to flop, to be honest. And even if it doesn't, they want to do more. What is left at this point other than original content, I guess, at this point, because they did, again, one of the focal points of the trailer is from Uncharted 3, so they're already past the majority of the trilogy at this point. So I don't, unless they're going to pick and choose from all through the game. So Uncharted 2, the movie, is going to have stuff from Uncharted 1 and 4 and 3, and it's just, I don't understand what they're doing with this, and I think it's stupid, and I think they should stop. But at this point, it's too far along. So let it happen, let it flop. But I think it's stupid, and I don't like it. And I really did try to have like an open mind and be nice about it, because I know I don't like the live action thing. But to be honest, like Cowboy Bebop dropped some visuals of like the intro. Listen, I don't like the live action thing. It could be worse, I guess. It looks like cosplay.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to keep an open mind with these things. I really am. But boy, is Hollywood testing me lately.
Especially with the Cowboy Bebop one.
Like, what the hell?
I always get itchy when I'm like, I gotta send you an update about that. Yeah, so it feels like we're pretty much on the same page. I don't know anytime I see a director be like, oh, it's gonna get the casuals and the hardcore, I'm like, I don't believe that at all. I feel like you either aren't gonna be far enough away from. So that's the thing. So you can't pull it away enough from the games, because then it's an Indiana Jones ripoff, a Tomb Raider ripoff, whatever you want to call it, and it's just not going to feel right. Or you're going to be too much into the games, and people are going to be like, just go play the game then. So I just don't understand when I see a director say it's going to get both fans and casuals. Usually that's a red flag for me. That's usually immediately this is going to be pretty bad nonsense. I'm gonna end up seeing it. I don't think I'm not going to theaters for it. Absolutely not. But it all feels wrong. It all feels wrong, and it takes me back. It's like the one time we saw that Nathan Fillion did a fan made short. It's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's good too.
And it was really good. Not. Also, he's at a super advantage that he does look like Nathan Drake.
A lot.
A lot. I just don't think we need a Uncharted prequel in a sense. My least favorite part, I want to say, of Uncharted 3 and 4 were those flashbacks when you were playing as young Nathan, crawling, sneaking out of your house and stuff.
It's so annoying.
It's not fun. This is kind of I was like, get back to the good stuff, which is the one-liners, which Tom Holland doesn't seem to have the one line. I think there's that one joke he says at the end of the trailer, but the Scottish thing. But the rest of it, he's not smiling. He doesn't seem like this sort of outgoing, smooth talker. He seems very reserved, and that makes sense for Spider-Man because he's a dork. He's a nerd. He's a geek. That's Peter Parker. Tom Holland, Nathan Drake's supposed to be kind of the opposite, outgoing and speaking to people and being able to be thinking quick on his feet and dancing with the words. So that's where I just don't buy it. I don't buy him as Nathan Drake, and I'd love to be wrong, but I've said it from the beginning. I don't buy it.
Yeah, and I guess I just have the same question for all of these live action remakes that I have yet to, I think, get kind of concrete answer for, other than money, which is, what are you gonna bring to this property that the game or the original Avenue wasn't able to do? So, for example, Ghost in the Shell. What are you gonna do with this live action movie that the original anime, what are you gonna do better, or what are you gonna do new that the anime couldn't do? So my question is, what for Uncharted could this movie possibly do that the video games weren't already able to do? And it doesn't make any sense that they say it's partially, for the hardcore. The hardcore people would play the games if they want to experience Uncharted. They don't want to sit down and watch a movie of Uncharted, because half the fun, not even half, 75% of the fun of Uncharted is not the cutscenes. It's the traversal, it's the shooting, it's the flying the vehicles. That's the fun part. That's what makes Uncharted enjoyable to experience. You know what I mean? It's not sitting there and analyzing the dynamics between every character, though that is fun. That is not the majority of the draw of Uncharted. We have games like Last of Us that do that better, and again, because it's different, they're trying to do different things. What makes Uncharted great, I think, is that kind of interactive adventure, that insane, over the top. It's basically these insane situations that you would see in action movies in the past. What if you got to play them? That's Uncharted, basically. And it's great, and that's why I love them so much. And to go back to movies, I'm like, what is the point of this, and who is this for? And the average movie person, I just genuinely think, is going to walk into this theater and it's like, okay, is this the kids' version, this generation's version of Indiana Jones? Because he's no Harrison Ford, basically.
Yep.
That's what's going to come off to somebody who hasn't played the game before. Same thing with the Tomb Raider. They're like, what is this? This is no Angelina Jolie. They didn't even know that was from a video game.
No, exactly. That is the issue that we're gonna for sure, unfortunately, see.
Leave the games alone. Let them rest.
Yes. Yeah. Just play Uncharted.
All right, so we have the last story here. It's basically just D-Brand versus Sony. It's a hilarious story. So we got this from Jared Moore over at IGN. And I'm going to link a Reddit post down below so you can actually see the statement that D-Brand put out. Because for you guys who don't know, D-Brand is absolutely nuts in terms of their marketing. And the way they talk online is insane. And it's very uncharacteristic of what you would normally see from brands, more polite, more fun, where they just go for it, and they basically are on a very Sony type of thing, which is insanely bold for people who are trying to basically make supplementary devices or skins for Sony hardware, but we'll get into it. So following a cease and desist letter from Sony, Canadian peripherals company D-Brand announced on Saturday they had been forced to pull its range of PS5 faceplates from the store. Now, pause really quick. So for you guys who don't know much about this, the PS5 has removable white faceplates on the side there. You can take them off with relative ease, but Sony didn't really market it as something to be removed and replaced so much as it makes accessing the internals easily. Just giving you guys some context. But obviously, it's something that if faceplate were to come out that were different, it's very easy to swap in there. So that's where D-Brand came in. It's like, we're going to make our own faceplates. So now, just 3 days later, the company has released its own original design of faceplates for the console. In an announcement, D-Brand proclaimed dark plates are back. Checkmate lawyers. So in a statement posted to the company's subreddit this weekend, D-Brand announced that its PlayStation 5 faceplates were dead after it received an official contact from Sony threatening legal action if D-Brand continued to sell them. Up until this point, D-Brand faceplates were near identical to the ones found in the console when purchased. The key difference was, instead of being white, the company's faceplates allowed fans to switch up their consoles to a matte black design. And they look amazing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, clean.
Despite pulling the original plates on Saturday, D-Brand already has a Dark Plate 2.0 design ready to go, which does suggest that the company could be using Sony's legal threat as a marketing tactic. That's a little bit of speculation, but to be honest, with the response, it kind of seems like that. And I did take a look at the Dark Plate 2.0. I mean, hey, they look good as hell. Like, I wouldn't mind getting those, to be honest with you. I want a black PS5 really, really bad. I don't really like the white look of it, though. It was a cool novelty spaceship thing. It was cool. I like it. I prefer the black look of it, actually, like, overwhelmingly more than I like the white. But I'm not going to try to purchase this, like, put out a pre-order, and then my pre-order get canceled when they get sued into the ground by Sony. So I'd like to let this settle first. But this is hilarious. Did you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was cool. I know someone who, I don't know if he got it officially through this. He did get plates to replace it, and I saw his system all black, and it's nice.
Yeah, it looked good.
It looked good. He went with the gloss. I would go for the more matte thing.
Matte,
so
for sure.
I thought it was funny when I saw them almost immediately come back like, oh well, we have a new design, and basically they took off the corners of the. Oh, you've seen it. They took the corners off the white plating for the Dark Plates 2.0 and added 2 vents. So I thought it looks really cool. I'm worried about that because Sony did design this specifically, so flooding your system with too much air is also could be an issue. But again, I'm super tempted to go for it. I kind of want to buy one. They're expensive right now on sale. They're $69, $70.
It's a lot. It's a little bit,
and that's for shipment. They're on wave 3. I'm looking at the website right now because people are buying this. They're on wave 3, so I wouldn't get mine till January 2022. And really, they have the matte black. You can also go with like the PS1 retro gray.
Oh my god! I didn't know about all this.
Yeah, if you scroll all the way down, there's like a retro gray, and it's that gray, the PS1 gray, and it's like, and it mocks it up, and let me tell you, it looks nice. Then you can also control the middle skin if you wanted to switch it to the retro gray as well, or the white.
No, I'm not about to go too crazy, but
no, yeah, that adds another 10.
Not on that gloss. That adhesive on the gloss is going to be a nightmare.
That's what I assume. And there's some light strips that it looks like you can add for more money. I'm not thinking about that, but that's just so much money for. Once I get a different multimedia setup, my system hopefully wouldn't even be seen. I don't want my systems to be out in the open the way they are now, just because they're like on the shelf. So it is interesting. I'm in the same boat with you. I want to wait. I want to see what people who get these experience any issues, or I don't want to buy one. It goes in limbo because Sony comes at them. I think it's kind of funny of them using the Sony threat, maybe even over exaggerating the threat for this, because like you said, right on their website before it says buy Dark Plates 2.0 checkmate lawyers. I think it's super funny. Sony could be pretty stingy on stuff, so it is an interesting one. But what a weird story about it, though, because sometimes they just give up on it and don't let it go. But it's an interesting one. It's something I want to keep my eye on for this product and for other products, and just to kind of see how Sony rolls with this, because I feel like Sony made them so removable for a reason, because you'd think at this point we're almost a year into the PS5 life cycle they would start selling special edition plates, and people would start going for that, but unfortunately nothing from them, and that's when you get these companies, D-brands, tons of people on other websites, Etsy's and stuff like that have been doing custom plates for a while now. So interesting to keep my eye on. It is something fun to watch. I did look a little bit of the Reddit when you sent me the link last night. They're having a good time over there.
They're nuts. But
yeah.
The thing is, like, okay, so whether or not D-brand infringed on their copyright or their patented design or something like that, that's for the lawyers to figure out. I don't know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know how that works. But what I will say is I'm, again, as you said, very surprised that Sony... Yes, Sony, send a cease and desist, do what you want. But to be honest, I'd be focusing a lot of my effort into... there's obviously a demand here. So the fact that Sony hasn't really made any effort to release these plates yet, this far into it, is surprising. I guess you can make the argument that, first and foremost, their hardware concerns is to getting those consoles in people's hands, not so much the extra stuff like the cosmetic alterations to said thing. So they're focusing on, let's just make as many PS5s, like, as is, get those out to people first. Then we can worry about faceplates and all the fun stuff. I guess that's probably Sony's focus right now, is just like, because of this console shortage, faceplates they're probably not, and it's probably not the best PR, to be honest with you. They're like, oh, you're releasing a whole new line of faceplates before a huge millions and millions of people can't even get the console yet. So I could see why they'd maybe want to avoid the bad PR. I just thought of that now. I was like, maybe that's it. Is they probably have the ability and full intention of releasing faceplates. It's probably just not a great look to put out peripherals in too high of a focus before you can even get the console in people's hands, is probably their concern. But yeah, if anything, Sony just needs to try to beat them to the punch more, because D-brand ain't going nowhere. They've been doing this for a long time. I'm mostly familiar with them doing the skins, obviously. But the plate thing is obviously a natural direction a lot of people are going to go into. You raise a great point with the whole airflow thing. I do have a little bit of concern when they start playing around with the shape of the console. I doubt it'll cause issues, but I don't want to play with it, which is why I prefer going with a Sony plate, just to make sure that it's as aerodynamic and has as good airflow as the original one does, because I just don't want to even play with it, even if it's 1% less airflow or 1% in the other direction, and that can cause issues. I don't want to play with that. I don't want too much dust collecting in my thing because there's a giant vent on the side. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to play with that too much, because then you're entering like PC Tower things where there's like a whole new care regiment that you have to like blow that out and stuff like that. And the PlayStation's not really meant to do all that, and I don't want to play around with that form factor too much. So that's why I prefer if Sony could like throw their hat into it, release the new plates. Maybe D-brand can figure something out where they could release plates that are not altering the outside besides the color too much. That maybe, but again, they're new. The Dark Plates 2.0, they look great. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, I love the look of it. The matte black system is a dream come true. The gray that you mentioned is great, because I remember there was I think it was the 20th or 30th anniversary of Sony, the PlayStation 4 that was gray. That one's beautiful, hard to get, too expensive now. And so if I could get my PS5 looking like that, that'd be a dream, because I have my PS5 not too far from my PS1. I have all my PlayStations kind of in a similar thing together. So I'd love that look to it, but this is really funny. The funniest thing about the story is just how absolutely insane D-brand is and how much they just bait Sony. And I'm like,
Wow.
They must have a
Wild.
good lawyer team to be talking like this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, confident.
But yeah, so that's all the stories we had for you guys this week. We're going to have a lot of fun things to talk about by next time, because by next time, I think it will be November at that point. So things are really going to start kicking into, we're entering Forza territory. Halo is just around the corner. Call of Duty's on its way, which I'm not playing this year, but I know a lot of people are. Same thing with Battlefield.
Yeah.
Pokemon's
this week
right
we
around
have
the corner. So.
Guardians of the Galaxy is also.
Oh yeah, the 25th. I'm already saying ahead of time, I'm not getting that at launch, but I have my eye on it. So if it gets good reviews, I might jump into it. But are you getting it at launch?
So I sold some stuff surprisingly, I sold some stuff at GameStop, and I got a lot of bonus credit for just pre-ordering it. So all my extra, I just have it on there.
Oh, perfect.
So it's paid off. I will be just waiting a little bit for those embargoes to go live first. If not, I'll move the credit to something else. But it's possible by next episode I may or may not have opinions on Guardians.
Perfect. Yeah. So you hold it down, and judging by what you say next episode will probably sway me one direction or another on whether to go, because I'm hoping it's more Spider-Man than it is Avengers, because I don't really like Avengers. So we'll see.
That's what I'm going for.
So yeah, you'll hold that section down, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks then. So this was the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabrel, and I'm here with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed,
and we'll see you guys then. Bye.